Ambassador Thexilari had witnessed countless battles across the galaxy, but nothing had prepared him for what he observed during the siege of Kepler Station. The reptilian diplomat adjusted his translation implant as he reviewed the after-action reports, his scaled fingers trembling slightly as he accessed the classified footage that would forever change galactic military doctrine. The siege had begun like any other engagement. The Vorth hegemony, a militant insectoid species known for their ruthless efficiency, had surrounded the human research station with overwhelming force. Their chittering war cries echoed through space as wave after wave of their fighters descended upon the small outpost. The humans, outnumbered 50-1, had responded exactly as every species in the Council archives predicted they would. They screamed. Human battle cries were legendary throughout the galaxy. Their hurrahs and charge could be heard across communication channels, a cacophony of aggression that both inspired their allies and struck fear into their enemies. The Psychological Warfare Division had extensively documented human vocal combat responses. The way they shouted coordinates, roared defiance at impossible odds, and sang their strange war songs even as death approached. For the first 3 hours of the siege, Kepler Station's defenders performed exactly as expected. Commander Sarah Chen's voice crackled over the comm systems, barking orders and encouragement to her small crew of 43 researchers and security personnel. The humans whooped with savage joy as their improvised defenses claimed the first Vorth casualties, their voices rising in pitch with each successful hit. "Take that, you bug-eyed bastards," one human had screamed after scoring a direct hit on a Vorth carrier. "Is that all you've got?" Another had taunted as enemy fire peppered their shields. Ambassador Thexilari's crest flattened against his skull as he watched the timestamp tick forward. 3 hours, 14 minutes, 37 seconds into the engagement, something unprecedented happened. The humans went silent. Not the silence of death, their life signs remained strong. Not the silence of surrender, their weapons continued firing with mechanical precision. This was something else entirely. Something that made the Vorth commanders pause their assault and exchange confused pheromone signals amongst themselves. Complete, absolute focused silence. The change was immediate and terrifying. Where once there had been chaotic human voices coordinating their desperate defense, now there was only the cold precision of hand signals and brief tactical data bursts. The humans moved like ghosts through their station, their faces slack with an expression the xenopsychology teams would later classify as beyond fury. Commander Chen's transformation was the most documented. The comm recordings showed her progression from shouting battlefield encouragement to issuing curt professional orders, to finally communicating only through encrypted data packets. Her eyes, visible in the security footage, had gone completely flat, like a doll's eyes. One Vorth survivor would later describe to interrogators. The effectiveness of their defense tripled. Human accuracy, already impressive by galactic standards, became machine-like in its precision. They began executing complex tactical maneuvers without verbal communication, moving in perfect synchronization, as if they shared a hive mind. The Vorth, whose entire military doctrine relied on overwhelming opponents with superior numbers and psychological warfare, found themselves facing opponents who seemed immune to fear, pain, or emotion of any kind. At 4 hours and 12 minutes into the siege, the Vorth made their first tactical error in over 2 centuries of warfare. They attempted to board the station. What followed would be classified by the Galactic Council for the next 50 years. The security footage from inside Kepler Station showed humans moving through the corridors like efficient predators. They no longer bothered with cover or defensive positions. Instead, they walked purposefully toward the boarding parties, weapons held low and ready, faces utterly expressionless. The Vorth boarding troops, apex predators in their own right, began exhibiting signs of panic. "They're not afraid," chittered one Vorth warrior over the comm before his signal went dead. "Why aren't they afraid?" The humans hunted the boarding parties through their own station with methodical thoroughness. They used tools and equipment in ways no military manual had ever conceived. Research lasers became precision weapons, maintenance robots became mobile bombs, and atmospheric processors became area denial weapons. They converted their scientific facility into a maze of death, with the same quiet efficiency they had once used to catalog distant stars. Commander Chen was recorded dragging a wounded fourth warrior into a laboratory, her face still wearing that empty doll-like expression. The audio pickup caught her voice, the first words she had spoken in over an hour. "You want to know about human research?" She had asked the injured alien in perfectly calm, conversational tones. "Let me show you what we've learned about pain receptors in different species." The Vorth fleet retreated 4 hours later, leaving behind nearly 60% of their forces. Ambassador Thexelari closed the files and activated his secure communication system. The call was answered immediately by the Supreme Military Council, 12 species representing the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy. "Honored Council," he began, his voice carefully steady. "I have completed my analysis of the Kepler Station incident. We have a problem." The holographic representatives leaned forward in their respective chambers, sensing the gravity in his tone. "Human combat doctrine requires immediate revision in our military handbooks," Thexelari continued. "We have extensively cataloged their aggressive response patterns, their emotional combat states, and their tendency toward vocal intimidation. However, we failed to account for what happens when these responses cease." He paused, gathering his thoughts as he stared at the classified footage timestamp. "Council members, when humans become silent in combat, they don't become less dangerous. They become something else entirely. Something that feels no fear, shows no mercy, and demonstrates creativity and violence that transcends normal combat parameters. I am recommending immediate implementation of Protocol 7 for any engagement where human forces exhibit sustained vocal silence during active combat. Protocol 7, the complete withdrawal of friendly forces and the classification of the combat zone as a xenocide risk area. Furthermore," Thexelari added, his crest now fully flattened against his skull, "I recommend we add a specific warning to all military communications protocols. When humans go quiet, they're not giving up. They're getting started." The Council voted unanimously to implement both recommendations. In the years that followed, the phrase "human quiet" entered galactic military terminology as a threat level exceeded only by extinction-class events. The warning became standard across all species military communications. "Attention. Human forces have ceased vocal combat communications. All units maintain maximum distance. Repeat, the humans have gone quiet. Expedite withdrawal to safe perimeter." The galaxy had learned to fear not the roar of humanity but its silence.